Dear friends, hello everyone, I'm again with you. I'm an Artyom, and in today's video we will have a complete overview of the new version of Minecraft. In today's video, we will consider all changes from the very first to the very last change. There are a lot of them here, so the video will be rich. I'll tell you about the bugs that were fixed on this version of Minecraft, and also about the new items that were added to this version of Minecraft, and also about copper resources and many interesting things. Therefore, before the start of this video, do not forget to like it, subscribe to my channel, and press the bell if you did not. Well, we move on to our complete review of the Minecraft version. Let's go. So friends, we start with the first object that was added to Minecraft. These are shelves. The shelves will crawl out of a trimmed log. A strained log can be used absolutely any. It can be as there, any trotted log, spruce, or even those trees that, for example, are in hell and so on there. We can use wood from which we can make trimmed wood to craft shelves. For example, here I take just an oak trimmed wood. In this way, we just put 6 things and get 6 shelves. We put 3 pieces on top. From below, we will also put 3 pieces. That is, such a craft, and we get 6 shelves. The shelves look as follows. In these shelves, we can add any items. For example, I now have logs in the inventory. Here I also have 6 shelves. Well, let's just remove it. For example, I'll go into the survival regime and we just press the button with the object that we want to put on this shelf. Just put it in this slot, for example. I still have shelves by the way of the shelf in the shelf. We can calmly put it, and I also laid the last 7 heated logs. That is, in this way we can simply apply all the resources. In one slot we can throw out, if I am not mistaken, up to 64 resources. And so we can also pick them up. Everything works cool, but we can also unite 3 shelves and make such a thing from them. Well, I don't know how to say, in short, such a full-fledged solid shelf. And for example, if you have a lot of resources in the inventory, let me go into creative mode. I'll take, for example, I'll take a workbench. In short, I'll take a lot of things, just different garbage. For example, I have a lot of resources in the inventory. If we put the levers behind these shelves or make some signal, that is, for example, put a redstone block there and so on, and we can simply throw all the resources that we have in this hotbar just in this shelf. We press the right button and all our resources at once, all that were in a football, are transferred to this shelf. This is very convenient. It is very cool. Well, you can also use this shelf, for example, in the scenery, or just to put there some resources that you have there, for example, in the inventory. So you need a stack of land there. You threw it into this regiment and went on. As I already told you, shelves can be made of different types. That is, there's from a mangrove, for example, from oak wood, spruce, and so on. All types of wood that we can make trimmed, we can use shelves and craft. Also, this shelf has its own signal. For example, if you put here one type of item in this shelf, for example, just the ground, then you are activated by one signal of this shelf. If you put 2 subjects here, then you have already activated the 3rd signal in the shelf. And the maximum signal, if we put, for example, 3 items immediately in the regiment, then we have the most maximum signal is 7. And thanks to this mechanics, we can make different mechanisms, for example, so that they open some kind of secret door, or that, for example, a block is open there. That is, well, for example, some secret, again, to make a passage with a piston. Then you need to put, for example, there are 2 objects and that's it. You have a door, a passage, cool. Now the largest change in this version of Minecraft concerns, of course, copper. Because this version, more precisely, this autumn drop is called that. Copper era. Well, the first thing we can make from copper is copper pieces. We will need these pieces further for craft certain objects. I'll show you now. Well, for starters, we just put 1 copper ingot and get 9 pieces of copper. This is how they look. In principle, just as it works with gold, iron, and other resources. And with the mark, we can also now make tools. This is a sword, an axe, a shovel, kurka, and a hoe. In fact, I think this is a little strange, because, well, they are not very cool tools. For example, if you have a stone chirus, a copper chirus, and an iron chirus, then a copper chir will be in the middle. That is, it is a little better than a stone chirus, but it is worse than an iron chirus. Therefore, I do not know why, in fact, to add this pickle. She is actually strange. I don't know who will use it. It seems to me that people will produce iron and immediately make iron tools, not copper and make copper tools. and then only iron. Therefore, this is strange. Copper armor has also been added, and zombies in this copper armor can also appear now. Copper armor is similar in the same way as, for example, with this tool, that is, it is in the middle between leather armor and iron, that is, it is better than leather armor, but much worse than iron armor. If we added copper instruments and copper armor, then accordingly, we also have copper horse armor, which is also inferior to iron horse armor. That is, it is also between leather horse armor and also iron horse armor. They can be found. It is precisely this horse armor, like other armor for horses in dungeons in Minecraft. For example, there is a dungeon with skeletons and so on. As for the lightning rods can now oxidize and have 4 stages of oxidation. This is the usual copper thunderstorm. We also have such a texture. This is the 3rd level, and this is the most 4th oxidized thunderbait. The functionality does not change in any way. The texture of these lightning rods just changes. This is how they look. Of the particles and also a copper ingot, we can make such chains. Clocks can also oxidize, but first let's move on to craft. In the middle, we simply put a copper ingot and 2 particles of copper, and we get only 1 chain. I draw your attention. The chain looks as follows. That is, it is a regular chain, not yet oxidized. And if it is oxidized, it will also change the texture. Here is such a texture. This is the 2nd level, the 3rd, and also the 4th level. For example, if you don't want these objects to oxidize, well, for example, there, rods, chains, and others, for example, stubborn there. You can take bee honeycombs and just anoint this item that you do not want to oxidize. It's just that these honeycombs and more this item will not oxidize it. It works there in chests with chains of rods and so on. What? As for, by the way, the rods from us will be scattered from 6 copper. So we take 6 copper, put as follows, and get 16 copper rods. They, as I already told you, can also oxidize. Just bee honeycombs come to help you. Well, that is, honeycombs just anointed. All these rods will not oxidize more due to the fact that we have added craft. Which is crafting from 6 copper, as I just showed you. We also have a new craft for Lunavik. Copper hatches used to craft it from 6 copper. Now they will crawl out of 4 copper, so we take 4 things and put them with this. Well, like a block, a square, and we get only 1 hatch. Lukes can also oxidize, of course, and we can also anoint them with honeycombs, and they will no longer oxidize. So, let's get back to this side, because here we have new torches. Copper, also torches that are made as ordinary torches. Only on top, we put this small piece of copper here, and that's it. We get a green torch. Well, it looks, in principle, cool. Now we have 4 types of torches. This is an ordinary torch from coal. It is a torch of a shower, a restored torch, and also a copper torch. Well, in principle, cool. We now have all colors. Red, green, blue. Well, I don't even know if the developers will add any other colors of torches. I think no. 4 lamps of different, also copper lamps, are made from the torch, and also here are 8 particles of copper. The torch must be copper. So we get 1 lantern. The lantern can also oxidize. Honeycombs come to your aid again. Anointed. This is more a lamp. More precisely, the lantern will not be oxidized. The chests are similar. Let's take all these. It turns out, copper ingots and also a chest. Everything. We simply put in the middle of the chest and put it around we get such a chest. It can also oxidize. For this, there's honeycombs. In fact, it is also strange, because this copper chest does not add any new functionality, only if you have a copper golem. And you can make copper golem from 1 copper block, just made of 9 honey, and also a carved pumpkin. And you get a copper golem and also a copper chest. Now there are functionality. Now I will tell you more about him at all. Why do you need a copper golem? Why do you need these copper chests with copper golem? Well, let's tell you about the copper golem. Forgot to sleep, in fact, here. Well, in short, they can also oxidize. That is, there is an ordinary copper golem. There is a copper golem is already more slowly oxidized. The 3rd level of oxidation and the 4th level, the most oxidized. If he prompted literally 30 minutes there, if I am not mistaken, or an hour at the 4th level of oxidation, then it will turn into such a statue. We can also remove. It turns out that oxidation with the help of an axe. And we can also anoint with bees honeycombs so that it does not oxidize you anymore. As for these copper golems, they can sort resources. For example, here I have the following resources in this chest. That is, just copper there, 8 iron ingots, gold, and also pretensor ingot. And now this copper chant takes the first ingots and simply sorts them. That is, finds a chest in which these resources lie. If he finds, then he adds these resources in a chest with these resources. Accordingly, I think I clearly explained. Sorry for the tautology. That is, here we have one subject of resources. Here we have iron. Here we have gold. Here we have a Nazarite ingot. And he just takes these resources from here and simply sorts them to others. By the way, thanks to these starts, you can also make different decorations. But now I will tell you about it in detail. Well, in general, he simply sorts these resources, and, by the way, he can take 16 items at a time. It can be like 16 there iron, 16 coal, and so on, and will sort them. The sorting is not affected, for example, the level of strength of the pick or level of strength of other tools, for example, or enchanting. In any case, if he finds, for example, some kind of pick in this chest and a pickup broken in an ordinary chest, then he will still go and put this pick there. We move to copper statues. As I already told you, 4 of their species, again, depends on the oxidation. That is, how much time they stood with you. With a certain period of time, you will have the oxidation of these statues. Also, thanks to these statues, you can make various poses. For example, this is the very first pose of your copper statue. That is, as soon as the copper golem turned into a statue, it becomes such a pose. You can change his pose, for example, make it so that your statue is sitting, also fled, for example, in this position. By the way, the campaign there also changed the location and the hitbox of this statue. That is, it has become more flat. Previously, she was slightly shifted, but now, straight even. This is great. The usual pose is also. That is 4 types of poses for these statues. Well, we also have 4 species of oxidation. On the last statue of oxidation, it will remain green. It will not oxidize anymore. And for this statue to turn into ordinary copper golem, you just take any axe and press the right button according to this statue, and you see it already has the 3rd level of oxidation. We click once again, the 2nd level is the 1st. And now this is the usual copper chant that can help you sort resources and just run around the house. Now he goes here. So, it turns out, sort these items. If a copper golem appears in the village and there will be an iron golem nearby, then an iron golem on a copper golem can hang in such a flower. In principle, it looks cool. No functionality of the new is added. But you can also, it turns out, can be removed from the copper golem with scissors. Press the right button and that's all. You have this flower. And your copper golem does not have more flour. We go to the mannequins. Quite interesting and the most such update that I liked most on the Minecraft version. Well, in general, now we can create mannequins. I recorded a separate video from the bridge about them. You can watch on the hint from above. There we walked in detail through these mannequins. The video lasted 40 minutes, completely told you all the functions. Well, for example, let me tell you the most basic now. The first thing we can do, of course, put this mannequin with the summon team. A mannequin, just a regular mannequin, will subside. You can add, for example, some kind of skin through the profile team. Add the profile attribute, write some kind of nickname there, and you add a skin to your mannequin. On the mannequin, you can also place armor, different weapons, for example, a sword, a shield, and so on. And each mannequin now has weapon. Your pose, which you can add to him. For example, this is just the pose that stands exactly, which is sneaking. This is what the pose looks like. For example, which floats, which flies, and which simply lies. This is how it looks. Again, I recorded the same, if I am not mistaken. The previous even a snapshot, which was before this version of Minecraft. The very last one is 120.1.9, not candidates, namely snapshot. This is where the poses were added. And in the candidates, if I am not mistaken, in the very first, they changed the kitbox for these mannequins. Now they are normal, more or less displayed, except for this mannequin. You can also add different nicknames, change the description for these mannequins. Here, for example, we have such a name. For the mannequin, and the description has also been changed. That is, this is a custom on top, and from below us is the description by default, this NPS, you can change it. Here, for example, us description are completely hidden and left only custom name. In the third case, we simply installed custom name, and the description as was and remained. That is, it was not edited at all. So here NPC is displayed here. The new fetch profile team has been added, thanks to which you can, for example, sprinkle the mannequin with your own skin, give the player's head, and so on. Only the most important thing is to use this command. You should have a Minecraft license. For example, I have a fetch profile team. I prescribe it. I also register the name team. And right there, the nickname of the licensed account, for example. Here, the head is given successfully. You can put on a mannequin. Here, you just click on this text, click run command, and you have a mannequin with your skin. And so it looks. But again, I remind you, you must have a Minecraft license. Or if you want to use some other skin there, you should have a nickname of this skin. Here, well, the last one, we can simply copy, it turns out. The ID of this account, that is, well, the skin itself. This licensed account, games, DNA, lower emphasis, 902. There will also be trail of dye textures in Minecraft. Now they look as follows. That is, they lie as if on a plate. Tray. I don't know what it is. Well, in short, some kind of incomprehensible Dale is added. They were without this thing. Now here is such an incomprehensible magician. Well, average. In principle, cool, but somehow useless. A flash for new shaders was added. Let's go to the Enderworld. I'm going here now. So excellent. I am already in the Enderworld. Let us fly out of here. And I will turn off the shaders to show you this flash. The flash was specially added, possibly for new shaders. In Minecraft. You see, the flash appears here. Here is such an incomprehensible little thing. And we also change here. Here is the texture of the ember in the Enderworld. So here we have disappeared this flash. She will appear again. I can even show you how it turns off. We go into additional settings. And here we have a hide sky flashes item. We can both turn on and turn off. Now we have this function disconnected, so we have this flash appears, and the ender's texture also changes. Here again, for example, if I go into additional settings now, I will turn off this function, that's it. We do not change the ender's texture, but we have a flash. That is, it works for us. Let us return to our beautiful location. I will return the shaders to make it beautiful with us. Great. And now let's move on to the new GAM rulem. Cool. Also cool. I like it. Because these GAM rules were not enough in Minecraft. Now you do not have to climb into the server settings, or in some kind of settings of the world. You can safely do this through the GAM rule team. The very first GAM rule, all of entering Nether using portal, if we prescribe it then. So, just let's like this. All of entering Nether using portal false. We will not be able to go to the Ender world. That is, here I am. I'm trying to teleport here now. I can't because I put the false. As soon as I indicate true, then I can get in the portal. Can you teleport here or cannot you? Well, here I will show you on my own behalf. You see? It is not teleported. Nothing happens to the bridge. Also, we have the enable common blocks team. That is, we can both turn on and turn off the command blocks. Also cool because here, for example, on our PSG server, it was necessary to turn off the temporarily command blocks. I had to climb into the server settings, reboot it, and now you can just a regular game rule, enable command block team, and everything will work cool. Only now the team looks like this. So, well, now Commander Day, enable block like this. I confused a little. Not enable common block, but common block enable and indicate false or true. Further, the enable block. Such an interesting thing is also an interesting thing because now we can turn off the mob spam. The mobs themselves will be spam in your Minecraft. There will be skeletons, zombies, and other mobs there at night, but they will no longer sleep from spam. That is, for example, if you go to some dungeon with a spawner of skeletons, then they will not sprinkle with you, and this is basically cool. You will not have to put the survival regime so that you simply do not sleep from spawner, precisely drawing your attention to mobs. But mobs will now appear normally in the ordinary world, and GAM rule PvP is also a very cool GAM rule because we can now turn it off or turn it on. For example, now it is turned on with us. Master, try to go into the survival mode, I'll try to hit you. That is, now I, turns out, turned on, I can beat Master. He can also beat me as soon as I prescribe false. Everything he cannot beat me. It will help, for example, on some RP servers or on some servers where there is some kind of RP or something like that. But the players there begin something there to indulge. Already overdo it. Just turned off the PvP, punished players, turned on and continue to survive. Draft messages. For example, I am writing some kind of message and someone kills me, then this message is still in the chat. I'll try to kill me now with a desk or a team. Or a sword. I'll just show you. That is, for example, I wrote some kind of text. I did not finish it. For example, someone killed me. Oh, you killed a little that I had to kill me, so I teleported to me. Well, I write some text. You see a bridge and I killed me and click on the respawn button and I have a draft of this text that I wrote here. I began to continue writing it, for example, when a player kills you or when you are killed in this about. Or, for example, something happens to you, you were boiled there. You can then go cross and continue to write this text. Now we can display objects in the Minecraft chat. For example, we have the next team that is located in the command block. That is, here we have Telro, a team that is responsible for the fact that we can write messages. For the entire server, we are writing some kind of text, and now we can add a sprite. and for example, some object that is in Minecraft. It can be like a diamond, for example. There is just some kind of block, diamond block. Let's add diamond block here, for example. This is how diamond block. Then everything is displayed with us. Only for some reason, probably, diamond block sprined it a little incorrectly. But if, for example, we choose a diamond and emerald, then this will be normal, correctly displayed. That is, objects can now be added calmly to the Minecraft chat. For example, if you have some kind of resource pack, you can change the diamond there for some kind of picture. For example, there is a picture of a house, yes. Add it to the resource pack. And now, instead of diamond, you have some kind of custom picture that you will make. The resource package also works for the titles, that is, for the displays block. For example, you indicate some kind of display here well. Just some kind of text, does not matter what text is. And you can also add some kind of texture from Minecraft. There, for example, the texture of fire, the texture of the diamond, and so on. It also works cool, well, which is also interesting. We can now introduce the heads of players into the chat. Similarly, you can change these heads in the resource pack itself and somehow indulge in. Add some casts to it. But now we are simply using the player name team and indicate here the licensed nickname of your account, and you are displayed correctly. The head in the chat works, so it works everything. I pointed out the Tolera dogs here, so this message is seen by everyone who is on the server. In my case, Must I sees it and I also see. Similarly works with title. Title dog title. The player with gnome Deinek games debut so too, for example. That is a licensed account. And it is normally displayed. It turns out the head in the title is so it looks like you also display, right? Well, I indicated the dog there, so yes, you see it is also displayed. Code of conduct, that is, when entering the server, you can configure the code of conduct so that some player goes to your server. He must accept this code of conduct. If he does not accept him, then he cannot get to the server. In this code, you can add some server rules, which you have on the server. For example, you can't rifle it, you can't kill players, and so on. Be sure to read these rules before entering the server. If he refuses these rules, then he cannot go to your server. Cool thing. Now we have changed F-tree. If we click F-tree, then you will see that now everything looks different with us. That is, they removed unnecessary. The default functions are now the coordinates on the right. They are on the left. But I still changed the display, now they are on the left. But in general, by default, as soon as you go to this version, if you have nothing to be configured, then your coordinates will have an unnecessary function now. They removed and F3 became more cleaner, I would even say that. And we have added a new combination of keys, F3 plus F6. And we can go to debug options, where we can add some functions, for example, in F3 here, turn on and turn off by biome change horizon and many other functions. For example, which you do not need there, you can disable, or which you need, you can turn on. And you can also indicate these functions as always. That is, they will constantly be displayed even in the server menu or in the Minecraft menu. Let me choose performance profile. Everything. And now we have settings of performance settings. In these FPS settings, we are indicated by default as always. And now if I go to the server, then my FPS will constantly be displayed, even in the Minecraft settings menu. So I went into the settings, I go to the multiplayer, I still have this FPS is displayed. So I go back to the server and he continues to display further. And you can also do with other settings. For example, not only FPS but game version, GPU utilization, and so on. You can specify by default, and all by default, you just F-trip as it should be displayed and displays the statistics interface as soon as we go to the statistics tab. Now we have a background. Everything became transparent in principle. It is clear that where to press can be sorted, for example, general, EM, and C. For example, UNM, that is times U. How many times have we used their trim log 20? 7 times there, for example. How many times we use the earth 490? 7 times. And for example, go to Pug, see how many times we killed iron golems there, for example. Go to Pug, see how many times we killed iron golems there, for example. Peaceful golems of mannequins and so on. Everything works cool, and now we can safely use the left mouse button and the right mouse button. That is, you can immediately break the objects and put them right away. And this without mods. This is done due to the fact that we can now control several functions using one button. For example, we can put the blocks button on the installation button of the blocks, one button. For example, the left mouse button, now that we break, we can immediately replace these blocks. That is, I broke the block, I immediately set. This is how it works. That's it. And we can simply quickly replace blocks without shields, put blocks, and so on. And you can configure everything for yourself in the settings as you want. It is also so cool. But as for me, it turns out a little cheater no, because now we can on one button to permit several functions. But this is a little cheater after all, but maybe someone will be useful to change the version of OpenGL now from 3.3. This is done to optimize. This is possible, even done for new shaders who may appear in the near future, or on the next version, or through one version. That is, those shaders who are now on the version of Minecraft Bedrock Edition. Cursor of Minecraft. All the time of the existence of Minecraft, finally, we have changed the cursor. Now if we take, for example, some objects, well, for example, let it be a book. That's just for an example. I'm writing some kind of text. I can now look at the cursor. It changes when I get into the text, when I get into the button. Sign and close, for example. When I can't perform an action, this is being displayed on the cursor. Such a barrier is now depending on what we mean as we interact with the text. So on our cursor is changing. This in principle is cool. That is, here we have such a cursor. Here we will now have an ordinary cursor. That is, here is such a little thing that shows us that we must click on this button. As soon as we choose something with which we cannot interact, we have a cursor on the mouse. We can turn this tuning and turn it off. Here is the mouse settings. Allow changes or offset. The version of the databases is now minor. That is, we had it before as 86, 87, 88, depending on the snapshot or version, which is added from our Minecraft. Now these are minor versions. They can be not just 86th or 88th, and now they can be 80. 6.1, 86.2, 86.3, and so on, until they release the full version of Minecraft, or until there are global changes in the data pack or resource pack, and the panorama of Minecraft was replaced. Let me leave this server. And well, accordingly, as on each version of Minecraft, a panorama changes. On the panorama, we now see copper golems. Here we are added. Such a village in principle is cool. Not much, to be honest. The panorama has changed from previous versions. But we have the most such plus that we now have a copper golem that attributes us to this version of Minecraft called Copper Era. Let's go back to our Minecraft server, and the last change is the world creation indicator. For example, when we create some kind of world in Minecraft, we can now see the indicator how quickly your world will boot in Minecraft. Here is Create New World, Loading Indicator. Here you see, such a strip appears, and it shows how quickly this world is generated in Minecraft. Well, here it was generated in just 4 seconds. In principle, cool. Well, let's get back to our server in Minecraft, where we play together on our own. In principle, these are all changes on the version of Minecraft AI and Friends. The version turned out to be interesting. A lot of things were added here, starting from copper golems, copper instruments, ending with mannequins. I liked the version. If so, be sure to like it, subscribe to my channel, and press the bell if you did not. Well, I was with you. TheDeinekoArtem, 8 Mustays fans. Good luck and everyone for now, friends.